So this is the new Terra Nova Vault Duo that has literally just come out. There's been a couple of unboxing and opening reviews on it, but not an actual full use, which is what I'm doing tonight. Now I see this as a sort of competitor to the Hilleberg. Alak and the Steiker sit somewhere in between, and I'll tell you why in a bit. As I said, you may have already seen an unboxing review on this, so you might already know the specs, but I'll go over them briefly. Basically, this is a two-person, four-season tent. It weighs 3.17 kilos. The specifications on this really are sort of aimed at competing with the higher end level tents for true four-season camping. So the pack size on this is 36 by 20 centimeters, so it's pretty compact for a large, heavy tent. It has a 30D nylon ripstop 5000mm hydrostatic head fly sheet. The bathtop of the floor is a Waterblock 70D nylon PU 10,000mm hydrostatic head, and it has 9.5mm Terra Nova reflex poles, and it has Terra Nova firmer pegs which weigh 13 grams each, and it also has 1.8mm Dyneema reflective guy lines. Now only time and hardcore winter usage is really going to show whether or not this tent is a true competitor to the Hilleberg types. But it's basically aimed, as I say, at the Alak and the Steiker, and it sort of sits in between the two. The shape is pretty much identical. It has very similar features to it. The Alak has a 9mm pole system. The Steiker is a 10mm, so that is their red and black label. This sits in the middle. It's got 9.5mm poles. So it should stand up to the sort of strength and the battering that a Hilleberg would take, but that's just the poles. We don't know what the material's like. So yeah, until someone uses it in some extreme weather, with some real high winds, we're not going to know until it's properly tested, and that's not going to happen tonight. Although it is stunning at the moment, it is forecast to pour down with rain throughout the night, so at least it will get a waterproof test, one way or the other. So I'm going to get this up, and I'll show you how easy or hard I make it. Now, before I set this up, I want to say a massive thanks to Colin from Outdoor Gear Essentials. So Colin sent me this tent out. He is going to be selling them, and he also sent me the footprint as well. They are doing a bit of a deal on it at the moment, so this should be £950, and he's selling it for £809, there or thereabouts. So I'll put a link in the description for Outdoor Gear Essentials. Very nice UK business, one-man band, owned and operated by one guy. Very, very good service, and he will look after you. Annoyingly, he's not a millionaire, and I've got to send it back. Okay, so that is it. In its initial state of setting up. The wind is picking up now, so I'm going to get it all tied down properly. So a little tip with this, they are doing a deal with the ground sheet, and I think if you put the footprint down first, this is a lot easier because you can set the ground out the way you want it, position the tent where you want it, facing the way you want it. I put it down first off and realised that the doors would have been facing that way, so I moved it around, but all I had to do then was line up the tent with the footprint, and that's it, sorted. But also, you've got some pegs in the ground already. Obviously, as soon as you start putting the tent up in wind like this, there's a good possibility that it could blow away. So I've got a carabiner that I was going to attach to my bag. Then I thought, well, do you know what? I've got these pegs in the ground already from the ground sheet and the footprint. So I used those, and it's been fine. One thing I find helps with these sorts of tents, so this is a geodesic tent. So you've got 3 cross poles, is if you can find the sleeve that is the lower one first, put that through, and then put the others through across the top, the next one up, and then the next one up. It just seems to work a little bit easier. And clipping the poles to the grommet is just a lot easier to do. So obviously you then have to put the rain cover on the top of it because there is a mesh inside there for ventilation. And again, similar to Hillebergs and other tents, let's compare it to a Cloud Peak rather than a Hilleberg. I think Terra Nova will be happy about that. So yeah, similar sort of thing. Allows the airflow through underneath it so that it will suck the moisture condensation out of the tent and out the other side. In theory, that's how it should work. Right, I'm going to get this pegged out properly now. Guy line's done. I'll just show you around here a bit more closer before I peg it out, just so you can see what it looks like. So you can see the cap here that is on now nice and solid. You can tighten it down with these line locks here. and the guy out points are on reinforced sections here. Now, they don't wrap around the poles like you can do with the Hillebergs and other tents, but they are fairly substantial, and this sleeve that the pole is in seems a very thick, strong material. It does look nice. I thought the poles were colour coordinated, and I saw this blue and suddenly thought, hang on a minute, I've only ever seen a blue pole, and they're all blue. They're all the same. So that's good. No messing about and putting the wrong pole in the wrong place. Each of the sides has got additional bungee cords, so you can really go belt and braces and lock this down. But I'm going to get it all tightened up now, tidied up, and set up ready to get my gear inside. Okay, so here it is, all fully done up, fully guyed out, full belt and braces. I've got the pegs on the sides as well, so the little guy out points. It has these weird little straps. I wonder what they were for at first, but obviously when you unzip one of the doors, it stops it from pulling too far open and therefore damaging the zip. When you come to close it down again, you're not putting as much tension on it as well, which is good. Door's got obviously two-way zip, so you can vent from the top without having the door fully open. My thought when I set this tent up was I can sit here with one vestibule open looking out at this lovely view, and the wind is coming from this way. I knew that, and obviously that is coming and going to go straight into that vestibule. But I also thought the vestibule was going to be on the sort of other side of the tent, protected, but essentially it's facing the same way. So the wind is blowing in both vestibules, which means I haven't got a sheltered area to cook in unless I move the tent round. Can I be bothered? Right, well, that was a faff. I decided to move it around. In all honesty, I had the footprint in the wrong place anyway, but I just couldn't bother to move it, and as I moved the tent, it's now put the footprint in the correct place. So here we have one door. This is facing the wind. I had no choice with that, but I could sit there and look out at this view. And the other door is this side, where I'm not really looking out at this view, partially missing most of it because of the shape of the vestibule. A lot of view is down that side. So what is quite nice on the doors to prevent any kind of zip creep, there is a toggle bungee on here. As I said, the doors open from top and bottom for venting. Toggles are your very basic toggle and loop. Don't know why they don't do a elastic one. They just, I think, much better personally. At least there are two of them, one on the top, one on the bottom, so it keeps it nice and tight. There is no movement. Now, obviously, I said this one's got the ground sheet that's come with it, so still don't think I've got it fully right. Hey ho, it'll do. But it's quite nice just to be able to sit on here and not get soaking wet on your knees getting in and out of the tent. It's just handy. So you have an oval door. So I'll get that out. Open now. Will it work one-handed? Yes, it does. And I'm assuming, yeah, there's a little pocket down here that you stuff it into. Now there's a pocket there, obviously another pocket there for that door. And then at the other end, two more pockets. I'm not a big fan of them being on the head and foot end. If they're on the side here, they're currently hanging because the sides are nearly always vertical. But you put your phone in here, that just pulls the inner down to your head. And when you're like me, you need every single inch you can get. That's what she said. And the inside is 220 centimetres long, which is not the longest tent in the world for someone like me. It's got different widths at the head and the foot end. So it's 125 centimetres at that end and 115 centimetres, I believe, at that end. That one looks smaller, so I'm guessing. and internal height is 108 centimetres. So I'm all right here. I'm not on a mat yet, but I think it will be fine for height. Right, so my immediate notice that I think this is quite bad. For a £950 tent, this has got one tiny little, not even a hook, just a loop. So that means nothing will fit in there unless it's a hook. If you've got something that's a closed loop, you need a carabiner to get it in there. That's really disappointing. 950 quid. They can't even put a hook in it. But not only that, there's only one. So there's none in the corners anywhere. So you can't run a drying line across the top, which, let's face it, in a large 2-person, 4-season tent, there's a good likelihood you're going to have wet clothes and you want to hang them up and dry them. So I don't understand that. There is zero ventilation inside the tent. This is completely solid. What it does have is a top section door. Oops, I opened the wrong one. So you can roll it down and get ventilation. I'm surprised it isn't at the top as well, to be honest with you, because when you're laying in here breathing, it's going to go up and it's going to go through that top. And if that's where the air vents are on the outside, which is where they are, I'll show you, the air going across the top of that air vent will cause movement underneath it, and it will suck any moisture and air up out through it. But you haven't got any air vents at the top for the moisture to go through. I don't think that's a good design, to be honest. Okay, I've just unhooked a couple of toggles at the top of the inner here, so you can see the mesh sections at the top. 4 of those for airflow, with a completely solid inner and a solid top on the inner. Now, anyone watching this has either got, or at least heard of, a FlexTail pump. I've had a few FlexTail pumps over the years, all been very good, apart from the Zero I didn't like. But my last one, which is the small, the latest one, version 2, has been playing me up recently. It's just not been working when I've been pressing the button. I keep pressing it, holding it, double clicking it, and it just seems to be not doing it. So I think it's on its way out, which was annoying me. And I was thinking, right, I need to get something sorted out to replace it. I also used to find the fact that there was one button to turn on the air and the same button to turn on the light. I could never remember if it was press and hold for the air, or double click for the air, or vice versa for the lights. So in the middle of the night, I'll be scrabbling around trying to turn the light on, and I'm blasting out air instead of turning the light on, or doing the opposite when I'm trying to pump up a mat. But as luck would have it, I've been contacted by a company called Aero Go-Go, and they do a product called a Gigapump, and this is the Gigapump 4.0. It is very tiny. It has 2 separate buttons, one for fan and one for light, and then there's a USB-C power charger input there. It's tiny. I think this feels smaller than my FlexTail. Obviously, it's the same colour. Don't know if they've taken that from them. But it goes up to 400 lumens. It weighs 100 grams on its own. It comes with the usual myriad of accessories. So it'll fit to pretty much anything you need to inflate it. The light on it is a 400 lumen, and it goes 40 lumens, 200 lumens and 400 lumens. So that should be really, really bright at night time. It's also got different power outputs on the air, so you can have it at low power or high power. I don't understand why you'd want that. You always want to pump whatever it is you're pumping up as quickly as possible. Maybe you want to be quieter. Maybe you're using it for a fire and you don't want it full blast, so you can use it to, stoke the fire. It will inflate and deflate from either side, so it does the same basically as the FlexTail. I'm going to be using this tonight. I'm going to pump up my Thermarest. So this is the Thermarest Neo Air X Max Large. It's pretty much the biggest mat you're going to get, so I'll be a good test of it on that. But yeah, what's quite nice is you've got a button for the fan there. So you press and hold it and it goes down. So press it on, full power, lower power, and off. And then the light, you got your different lumens from high to low and low, 40 lumens. Annoyingly, it has a hook like the Flextail has, so it has a full loop going across there, which means it won't hang on this stupid loop that's in here. So I've had to put a carabiner on it, which means it's going to hang even lower and reduce my headroom. And because it's in the middle of the tent, not at the front or the back, I'm going to be bashing my head on it all the time. Right, so let's get my thermalrest pumped up, see how it does. Let's time it. I'll add 10 seconds onto that. That's pretty impressive. So 51 seconds plus roughly 10 because I didn't start timing it straight away. So 1 minute pumped up fully. So now just see if it lasts all night. Admittedly, we're not in the winter, so the nights aren't going to be as long as they would be. But I will hang this up on my carabiner and let it bash me in the head for the rest of the night. Okay, it's getting serious now. It's taking my hat off. So this is the test. This is 220 centimetres long. I'm 192. 220 is great. If the side's like that, if they're like that, you lose a considerable amount. So NeoAir Xtherm Max large mat with me on it. Okay, so this is about as far up as I can go. And the tent's just flapping on my hair, messing my hair up. And my feet are fully touching the inner. And I haven't got a bag on yet, or my quilt rather. It's not good. Let's try it at an angle. A bit more headroom, because I'm nearer to the slab sides of the wall. But my feet are just pushing against the end. Tent manufacturers, come on. I know I'm tall, but nearly every tent is designed for someone below 6 foot. The national average is getting taller and taller and taller every year. So, yeah, it's going to suit most people. But it's not perfect for me. Even though it's huge and weighs 3.17 kilos, it's still not big enough. You know, say you get all 4 seasons in one day on Dartmoor, but when you get an evening like this, there's nothing that matches it. It's just stunning. The contrast, the shadows, the tors, the rocks, the views. It's beautiful. Right, well, it's quite deceptive in that I've been sitting in the tent for about the last 20 minutes or so, just doing a time lapse on the sunset, and didn't even notice it, but the wind has really picked up. It's quite battering across here, but the tent is standing solid. It's from the back here. I've got the doors open, so I'll turn you around. There's a bit of movement on the tent, but inside it's not moving at all. It's really solid. Across from there, hopefully you can can hear me. So yeah, temperature has dropped with that wind chill. It has got cold, and yeah, it's taken a bit of a battering, but it's rock solid. Annoying. I don't know what the temperature is out there. I've just been out setting my camera up for a bit of a time lapse on the sunset. It's absolutely stunning, beautiful out there. But the wind chill, my God! I've been out there for about 2 minutes. My knuckles are red, my hands are tingling, they're absolutely frozen. I don't know what the speed of the wind is. I didn't bring my anemometer along. It's probably 20-25 mile an hour, maybe, nothing major, but it's just cold. Right, my food is on. I'm going to eat that, bring it back in a bit. Just found another use for this little thing. Spilt some coffee on the floor. Not having the opposite of Hoover. Another little thank you to Cole from Outdoor Gear Essentials. He also sent me a Wayfarer salted caramel chocolate brownie. Not had one of those before. I may or may not have it tonight. Just had my dinner. Not really that hungry. Maybe breakfast? We'll see. Yeah, it's a new range that's come out. So there's a new line that they've got out. So I had the chocolate one before, which was really, really good. I do like that. But yeah. Thanks, Colin. Well, she's holding steady. It's seems to be a bit fluffy inside though. So we have this section here at the top of this door. Seems to sag in a bit. Weird. So I mentioned earlier on that the outside was getting the wind hitting it. But the inside was solid, so I didn't even notice how windy it was outside. But it seems to be the opposite way around now. The inside is more flappy than the outside, and I'm assuming that's because obviously the inner is loose and there's wind getting up underneath the fly. Obviously it's a 4-season tent, so it goes right down to the ground, but there's always going to be a bit of a gap if wind is forcing its way into it. And we're in a bit of a wind tunnel through here. It's sort of gusting through, so yeah, I think the inner is making it now feel like it's windier than it really is. It's fairly windy outside. I mean, you can see from that video I just took, but the tent is standing solid, doing well so far. Right, so I was going to go and tighten up the poles, put them in the inner grommet section to just give the tent a bit more rigidity. But the wind seems to have died down a bit now, so I'm not going to bother. I'll leave it as it is, and I'll see how it goes throughout the night. But I'm going to go to bed now because I'm tired. It's late, so I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning. I did not sleep well last night. Rough. That's a badger's backside. The wind sort of stops in the middle of the night. Well, I say middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning or so. But yeah, there was no issues with the tent. Obviously, it hit apparently gusts up to about 30 miles an hour. So it really wasn't that heavy last night. It did rain, started pouring down in the middle of the night, and then stopped. So tent's nice and soaking wet, which is always good, especially with packing away. There is no condensation inside. I did open both windows, door vents, just to sort of keep the air dry. So yeah, it's been fine. I think it's time to get a coffee on. A much needed coffee. I don't know what everyone else uses, but normally if it's pouring down with rain in the middle of the night, I need to go to the toilet. I can't be bothered to go out. If I remember to bring it, I've got one of these, and it extends out. Not the easiest thing in the world, but actually it's got a bit of a vacuum, so you need to have the top open. There you go. It extends out to that length. I'd love to know what else you guys use, or ladies. I'm finding it's not big enough, and I don't mean girth, just volume inside. I don't know how large your bladder is in relation to the body, and obviously I'm a lot taller than most people, but yeah, it's quite worrying when you get to the point when you're laying in bed and it's filling up completely. So yeah, if anyone else uses something similar that's bigger or better, comment below, tell me what you got. I'd be interested. Embarrassing conversation out of the way. So one thing I hate is packing away a wet tent. And obviously if it's raining, it's raining. There's not a lot you can do about that. But I bought one of these, which is it's a Swedish cloth. They do everything better in Sweden, don't they? Obviously it's dry now, so I'm just mopping across the tent. But the difference, I'll show you. So there's the top cover of the tent. And the sides from the rain last night. And here, there's one I've wiped clean. And this really just mops it up, completely absorbs it, so you can just put away a couple of minutes work, a nice dry tent. If you want some of these, I'll put a link in the description below. So I mentioned last night that I was going to move the poles to the inner grommet to try and tighten it up, because I did notice that it wasn't flapping as much, but it was a bit loose at the top here, particularly around the doors. And apparently you can double pole it, or you can just use that extra grommet to retension it or to tension it more. So I'm going to do that now and just see what the difference is like. Okay, so that is not the easiest thing in the world to do when the tent is all guy-lined out. So obviously if you're expecting wind, put it on the inner grommet first. It does seem to have tensioned it a little bit more, but I've only just done a couple of poles, not both sides, but it was incredibly tight. So I think if you did all of them, 3 poles, both sides, so that's 6 additional separate sections of tensioning, I think that would make quite a bit of difference. Right, so as you possibly noticed there, I was joined by a gaggle of people who were they're doing the tent tour. So a couple came over and started saying hello. We were chatting tents for God knows how long, and then the rest of the group that are doing the tent tours came over. So I didn't really film a pack down of the tent, which is fine. I don't normally do that, but it's all packed away now and went away fine. Some more final thoughts on the tent. It performed well. It wasn't horrific weather, so I'd expect it to. It's a 4-season tent that retails at 950 quid. I liked it. It's a good tent. It's not for me, just simply because it's not big enough. I think they need to do a couple of changes to it. Having the pockets on the foot end and the head end rather than the side, I think is a ridiculous idea. Because it just hangs down inside it. So not my cup of tea. Put a hook in the ceiling instead of a loop, and maybe put 2 in just to make life a little bit easier and so you can dry your gear out. But that's my thoughts, might not be yours. Once again, I want to give a massive shout out and thanks to Cole from Outdoor Gear Essentials who sent me the tent tonight and the footprint and my pudding, and I didn't eat it, so I will keep it and I will eat it and give you another mention on another video. But yeah, thanks for that. Really nice of them to send it out. Good fun to test it. So let me know your thoughts. Tell me what you think of this tent. Stick your comments in the comment section below. Tell me whether or not you think this is something that could be a competitor to the Hillebergs. I'm not going to say it's a Hilleberg killer or it's bomb-proof or anything else like that. Quite simply, it's a good tent. It's a 4-season tent. until someone takes it up on the mountain in 60-mile-an-hour winds, we're not going to know what it's going to be like in comparison to a Hilleberg. Anyway, as always, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, hit the thumbs up, and if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all on the next one.